stone. Into this house we're born, into this world we're thrown, like a dog without a bone, an actor out alone, riders on the storm.
Hey out there, this is April 1st, 2016, and it's about 17 minutes until 11 o'clock in the morning here in Northern California. And I shared some of the local wildflowers that are coming out this time of year here. And you know, I think it's so important for us all to just take time to just, you know, enjoy the moment, to forget the past, to forget the future, and just enjoy existing, just enjoy being human beings on the face of God's earth. And you know, this is kind of what I wanted the theme of this video to be is, although I want to get into current events, I want to talk about economics and politics and different things, but you know, it's just been on my mind that Satan is really playing go for broke at this point in our history as humanity. And it's like a final gasp of determination to succeed in installing permanent madness into the land, cementing it, solidifying this madness that is called our reality, that's all been inflicted upon all of us with no choice from birth. And to me, it just it detracts about 90% or more of the enjoyment I feel I could derive from just existing, just enjoying my life as a human being on the face of this earth. And I believe that's the case for most people. And we're all being played, and the master players, the grand puppeteers, don't care about little differences like whether you're a communist or whether you're a capitalist or whether you're a Democrat or whether you're a Republican, whether you're a conservative or a liberal. The main thing that they've got to keep going is this division, this small-minded division where people are at each other's throats for things that really don't matter in the scheme of things. And that's something I wanted to talk about, you know, is this scheme of things. In the scheme of things, what really matters, I ask. And the second question is, who determines what matters in the scheme of things? And I suggest that it's really the individual, that every one of us has the ability to decide for ourselves what is valuable and what is not valuable. And we all need to take time out of our busy schedules to just reflect on the more important things, to step out of this small little unreality that's been foisted upon us and look at the big picture. Take time to consider the proportions of the galaxy, the grandeur of the galaxy, of just our own solar system. The fact that science says there's over 500 million habitable planets on the face of, in our galaxy alone, the Milky Way galaxy. Consider the potential we have for understanding these things, and understand that this is something that is very powerful because it's knowledge, really. And if the people ruling our lives want to remain relevant, then it's in their interest to keep this kind of knowledge from the general public, because it's disempowering. When you don't know for certainty that indeed there is other populated planets with stories playing themselves out all over the universe, not just in our own galaxy, that knowing fundamentally that God likes to create, what makes any of us think that he would stop with us on planet Earth? So we need to understand the cosmetology here, understand the proportions, what is really important here and what is marginally important and what is of no importance. We all need to try to wrap our minds around the big picture. But first of all, we need to step out of this one. We need to see the madness of what is called civilization. What is a society today that is basically our civilization. All the nations are sharing a lot of the same technology now. We're all having similar advancements in understanding and knowledge. But there's a point that we're hitting that is this wall, this barrier. And it's a very tenuous time to be alive. Yes, it's very exciting and it's exhilarating, but it's also rather foreboding, because all human beings on the face of the earth instinctively know that something needs to come to pass. We need to do something to survive. And when it really comes down to it, that's what it's all about. It's not so much about worrying about pleasing the establishment and the world. If we're living our lives to simply please the ways of the world, we're living outside the bounds of what is correct and proper and a right way to live. And so our focus is more on deciding what is valuable and not valuable by what the world tells us to, what we've all been conditioned to. We've been indoctrinated to believe in the values of our rulers, and our rulers are nothing but a gaggle of madmen, really. These are not nice people, to say the very least. These are people that are haters of humanity. They want to thin the herd, and that is humanity, and that's all they care about at this point. That's it. The top people, the top rulers are so evil, so vile, that this is their, the number one on their agenda, their priority list. This is it. It's just, we hate humanity. We're better than, we don't see ourselves as common men. That's why we're up here and they're down there, and we've just got to keep it like this. I saw on the Alex Jones show, he was querying, he wondered what the population, the poverty rate of whites is. Some figure 18% or something. And, I think, we need to ask the more important question is, what poverty rate is acceptable to maintain? Because we all have to admit first and foremost that it's being manufactured, it's being created. You see, there needs to be this big swath of poverty-stricken people to keep the other people in line. There needs to be people actually perishing out in the cold in order to get people to pay the exorbitant rents and mortgages they have to pay. This is how it works, and it doesn't work well, as everybody knows. So then you get these people that demand social welfare, and they say, well, look, that we've got this great need, and the government can't just ignore the needs of the people when the government is one deciding economic policy. And we know it's due to economic policy that's creating the poverty. So there should be no question here about what's going on. And for some people, just because they are more assertive, more aggressive, more determined to be, quote, successful, as defined by the ways of this world, and that means making a lot of money, doesn't necessarily make them smarter. It just makes them those aforementioned qualities, that they're more pushy. But this really is what our overlords want us to buy into. It's a social Darwinian type of thing here. It's that, look, play dirty pool. It doesn't matter how you make your money, just make it. And, even if you make it through good methods, you're still buying into the whole notion that this is success and it's defined by the rulers of this world. This is the big mistake we're making. We need to care much, much more, vastly more, infinitely more about what pleases our owners, our parents. That's God Almighty. We need to be concerned about understanding for ourselves what we want heaven to look like. And heaven, because God's will is going to be done on earth, is going to be established on earth. So basically, heaven is just a society where there is no more death, there is no more disease, there's nothing bad. You still have a body, there's still other people, other beings around you, because this is what we want. It wouldn't be heaven without other people. So fundamentally, we've got to understand that this is a beautiful thing, that we are what it's all about. We are expressions, each one of us, of God. We are indispensable expressions, precious treasures to God Almighty. These are the things that we really need to fundamentally understand and step back from this worldly point of view that says, look, it's just all about finding, worldly security, which is defined as money, wealth, prosperity in that term, the physical wealth, possessions, assets, all this kind of stuff. What are your investments? How much you're making, your numbers growing, When we know it's just a big charade, really. We're just all being bamboozled by this thing. If we simply had sound currency, we would solve all of our problems gradually. If your currency is worth more all the time, gradually everybody is lifted out of poverty. It happens automatically. It happens naturally. What we've got is pseudo-capitalism, and if there's one way to create rabid, thumb-sucking, entitled communists, then crony capitalism is the way to do that. And another term for crony capitalism is fascism. Why? Because it involves the government. The government becomes nothing more than a special interest groups colluding against the best interests of the people. So you've got to understand how diabolical this whole thing is, and how many people's interest, their paycheck, their financial stake depends on the problems persisting. There's people invested in the prison industry getting money on stocks. Do you understand just how many different entities, special interest groups, that form this giant hydra monolithic monopoly that is the establishment? And it is acting outside of the best interests of the people. There's a lot of people that have a stake in the problems persisting and preferably proliferating the problems, growing the problems, okay? Because this gives greater job security. If your job revolves around a social ill, a social problem, then you have a staked interest, a monetary interest in the problem persisting. So it's all very simple, and solving humanity's problems is all very simple. But we need to, each one of us individually, contemplate what heaven looks like, a perfect world, an ideal world, and don't let that little voice in the back of your head slant your thinking in any way, okay? Because it's telling you that's not pragmatic, that's not common sense, we're never going to have an ideal society, blah, 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 and that's just pipe dreaming, nonsensical, illogical rhetoric, okay? Because I know that's what the demons will tell you. That's coming from the pit of hell. That's that satanic spirit telling you